let's talk about the immune system and the nervous system and how the two interact and how you can control your immune system to serve you better. We are also going to discuss a lot of tools, and I think many of you are probably here because you want to know what you can do in order to boost or enhance the function of your immune system. That's a very reasonable question to ask. And there is now a sort of generic form of that answer that deserves our respect, but is not going to be the topic of conversation today. First, of course, is the foundation of all mental and physical health, which is to get adequate sleep, meaning enough sleep, to get deep sleep, so it's got to be of high quality, and to time that sleep correctly, meaning you can't sleep during the day one day and at night the next day and expect your system to function well. Okay, so we need sleep. We do need sunshine in your eyes in the morning and again in the evening, and not to get too much bright light in your eyes in the middle of the night. Get exercise. How much exercise? We should all be getting 150 to 180 minutes of zone 2 cardio. That's cardiovascular exercise per week. We should be eating well. We're always told we have to get good nutrition, avoiding processed foods. That's going to be important. Social connection is important. Hydration is important. You're starting to get the picture. We can take all that, acknowledge it as useful and foundational for mental and physical health. It's very clear now that the nasal microbiome is particularly good at scrubbing bacteria, at preventing certain types of infections. So this is a reminder that whenever possible, unless eating or speaking, you want to be nasal breathing, not breathing through your mouth. Your nose is a much better filter for viruses and bacteria than is your mouth. The other way to try and keep out bad things and to avoid getting sick, to not touch your eyes after touching other people or touching other surfaces. And if you've ever noticed when you wake up in the morning, you have some sleep in your eyes, the kind of crusty stuff in the corners of your eyes. That sleep, that crust, are actually dead bacteria that you've successfully battled during the night. So during the daytime, you don't want to introduce viruses and things to your eyes as much as possible. It is a primary site of entry. This is why people wear goggles in surgical units and try and avoid getting things into their eyes. And then the third way is to ingest 2 to 4 servings a day of fermented foods, low sugar fermented foods, things like sauerkraut, things like natto, kimchi, pickles. Again, low sugar sources are going to be the most effective for this. So let's say you are in that unfortunate circumstance of waking up one day and you've got that tickle in your throat, or when you breathe, your nasal passages don't feel the same way. You've got a little bit of a headache. You're feeling kind of off. We all know what we should do. We should all hydrate, drink some water, and go to sleep, right? That's what we're all told. But let's focus first on the rest component. Yes, of course, we are all told that we should take a hot shower and go to sleep, but there is some evidence that the sleep associated with an infection, in particular early stage of infection, is associated with elevated levels of serotonin in the brain, and that serotonin and its related pathways can help enhance some of the immune system function that could combat the infection. Looking at whether or not supplementing precursors to serotonin like 5-HTP, which can be taken in supplement form, or consuming foods that increase serotonin naturally, so these would be any foods that contain high levels of tryptophan. You can look up what those are. So white meat turkey, for instance, certain complex carbohydrates can often be rich with tryptophan, that consuming those foods can enhance the amount of serotonin that's available in the brain and blood, and thereby lead to the particular quality of sleep that allows for more deep healing. What is very clear, however, is that during sleep, and in particular during sleep that's associated with the early stage of any kind of viral or bacterial infection, the so-called glymphatic system is much more active than it would be normally. The glymphatic system, with a G, is a system in the brain by which debris that accumulates throughout the day is cleared out or is washed out of the brain. And the activity of this glymphatic system is extremely important for the recovery from infection of any kind. Brain imaging reveals the glymphatic system is very active during deep sleep, and there's this kind of washout of the glymphatic system. And I'm aware of some studies that are ongoing now where augmenting the serotonin system is being looked at for its capacity to increase the amount of circulation in the glymphatic system. And the idea is that it might potentially lead to more rapid recovery from injury and illness, and potentially ramp up the activity of the immune system. Now, regardless of whether or not you decide to, for instance, supplement with 5-HTP before sleep or not, there is a way that you can increase the activity of your glymphatic system under normal circumstances. Because of the mechanics of the glymphatic system, it turns out that if you elevate your heels by about 12 degrees as as you sleep by putting maybe a rolled pillow or 2 pillows underneath your feet. By having the head below your legs, it seems that there's more glymphatic washout or clearance during sleep. And this is without taking any compound to adjust the serotonin system. So I would say, if you're not feeling well, yes, take the hot shower. Yes, get into bed and go to sleep, but elevate your feet to try and increase the activity of the glymphatic system. If you'd like to explore the 5-HTP approach and you feel it's right and safe for you and you've talked to your doctor, it's 300 to 500 milligrams taken about 30 to 60 minutes before going to sleep for the night. That's the typical protocol. What about the take a hot shower part? Is that good advice? Well, it turns out it is, and there's actually a way to do even better. There's a study, very interesting study. Basically, what they found was that just one 15-minute sauna session could really increase white blood cell profiles and could adjust cortisol levels in ways that were beneficial for combating infection. Now, this should immediately make sense. Heating up can actually help combat infection. I know many people don't have access to sauna, so in that case, a very hot bath or shower, don't scald yourself, of course, but as hot as you can comfortably tolerate would be a good idea. There are communities out there that believe that fasting is a viable way to combat certain types of infection. Fasting, in particular prolonged fasts, do increase the amount of adrenaline, also called epinephrine, in the brain and body. And epinephrine, adrenaline, does have a powerful effect on the various inflammatory cytokines and on the immune system in general. So let's talk about a behavioral protocol that anyone can use. It doesn't involve any equipment. You don't need a sauna. You don't need anything at all. The breathing that is so-called Wim Hof breathing is very similar, not exactly the same, but very similar to Tumo breathing. It involves 20 to 30 deep inhales and then exhales through the mouth, followed by exhale of all one's air and a breath hold. And then at some point, 15 to 60 seconds later, repeating the 25 or 30 breaths, and then again, a breath hold with lungs empty. It looks something like this. Okay, so let's assume I did that for 30 breaths. I can already feel myself perspiring a little bit. You're heating up. That's the release of adrenaline. It's caused by that breathing pattern. And then exhaling all of one's air, no speaking in between like I'm doing. And then sitting, lungs empty, until one feels the impulse to breathe, and then repeating for several rounds, 2 or 3 or even 4 rounds.